Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I'd like to welcome you to another in the series, In the Light of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace and blessings be on all of you, dear viewers. In this segment, we will begin with a question from Dubai. Sister Nasreen asks, concerning inheritance, can a Muslim son or daughter inherit from his or her non-Muslim parents or relatives, and vice versa? We know as a basic principle that the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, said, a Muslim may not inherit from a non-Muslim, nor may a non-Muslim inherit from a Muslim. This principle is regarding the general inheritance laws, wherein the wealth of somebody is divided up according to the laws either of Islam or the laws of the state. Now, if a person leaves a will, according to Islamic law, the will is not considered to be a part of the division of inheritance. It is looked at in a different light. So, it is permissible for a Muslim to leave aside a certain portion by will of their wealth for non-Muslim children or relatives. However, this portion cannot exceed 1/3 of their total wealth. This has been set by the Prophet, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, that we are allowed as Muslims to leave up to a maximum of 1/3 of our wealth to others who would not normally inherit according to Islamic inheritance laws. Likewise, if we have parents or relatives who are non-Muslims who die and leave behind a will in which they have specified certain properties for us, we're allowed to accept that. However, if they died without leaving a will, and the issue of division falls back now to the state, and the state laws of inheritance come into play, whatever has been decided for us by those state laws, we cannot accept. That is the basic principle with regards to Islamic law in this matter. We have another question from Sister Asila, who is writing from Dubai. Dear Dr. Bilal, sometimes I'm late to perform my prayer because I'm working at a boutique. So I want to know if I'm praying late, like for example after my duty time, and it was during Dhuhr prayer, is my prayer still acceptable? Is there any reward for it? The question is not that clear. We have two possible circumstances here. One, the prayer time is Dhuhr time, and Sister Asila, you are not praying at the time that the adhan goes, or the iqama, or the final call for prayer goes in the mosque. You're not praying at the beginning of its time, but you're praying later, before the adhan of Asr. If that is the case, then there is no harm, because you have between the time of Dhuhr all the way until the time of Asr, in which to perform the midday prayer known as Dhuhr. However, if you are not praying it within this period of time, but are delaying it into Asr time, if you're doing this out of negligence, that you had the time to pray, but you have deliberately delayed it, of course, this is wrong, it is sinful. However, if one knows that one's circumstance will not permit one to pray Dhuhr in its time, for example, if a person was a brain surgeon or an open heart surgeon, he has a job which will not allow him or her to pray due to those commitments of the job at that particular time, it is possible to join the prayers of Dhuhr and Asr together and pray them in the time of Asr. Likewise, it is permissible to join the prayers of Maghrib and Isha, the sunset and night prayer, together in the time of Isha or in the time of Maghrib. This is where one knows ahead of time circumstances are going to arise. We're not going to be able to pray on that time. We can make the intention of joining the prayers and doing them together. Now, this is something which we should not take as a general license that we're going to just do throughout our lives. All the time we're just praying, joining prayers together. But when circumstances arise where there is difficulty, we are permitted to do this. And this is recorded in the collection known as Sahih Muslim, in which Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, not being a traveler, he was not a traveler, nor was he sick, nor was there a time of difficulty in terms of weather. He joined the prayers of Dhuhr and Asr and those of Maghrib and Isha, and he said he did this to remove difficulty from his followers. So this is something permissible where difficulty arises. A question from Fujairah. Mr. Michael O'Rourke writes, Dear Dr. Phillips, I've heard that in your religion, Islam, that you believe in Jesus. Please explain in what way the Muslims' belief differs from us Christians and why you don't accept Jesus as your Savior. Yours sincerely, Michael Rook. Mr. Michael, the question you've asked here first begins with recognizing that in Islam we believe in Jesus. And you're asking for the difference then. Since if Christians believe in Jesus, Muslims believe in Jesus, why don't we accept Jesus as our personal saviors? Now, fundamentally, our belief in Jesus is, as a Muslim, that he was born miraculously. That is, he was born without a father. His mother Mary was not even married, according to the scriptures of Islam. And he was a prophet of God. We believe in his miracles, which were by the commandment of God, that he made the blind see, he made the deaf hear, he made the lame walk. He even brought back to life the dead. But this was all by the commandment of God. We also believe that as a baby, newborn baby, he spoke. It is mentioned in the Quran that when Mary was confronted by her people, who were shocked at her having a child without being married, she pointed to the child, and Jesus, as a newborn babe, spoke in defense of his mother, saying that he was a prophet of God, and that his mother was righteous and she had not committed any sin. This was in defense of his mother. And this is a miracle which is not even recorded in the biblical scriptures. However, the status of Jesus is still that of a prophet of God. He prayed to God, as is even recorded in biblical scriptures, and as such, he cannot be considered a savior. Only God saves. He is not God, he was a human being, and this is where the difference in our belief lies. That modern-day Christians hold Jesus to be the Son of God and to be God. And as such, he is identified as being the Savior of mankind, as being the one who will sit on the right hand of God and judge. However, these attributes are attributes which belong to God alone. According to Islamic teachings, God alone saves, he alone judges. Jesus was a human being. We believe he was raised up by God. He was not crucified. He did not die on this earth. It appeared as though he was crucified. Others may have been crucified in his place, whatever. But he was raised up by God, and he will come back as one of the signs of the last day. So the basic difference is that we do not consider Jesus to be God, but a prophet of God. We honor him. And we believe that fundamentally what he was teaching was Islam, just as was taught by the prophets before him, Prophet Moses, David, Solomon, etc., and by the last of the prophets who came after him, Prophet Muhammad. May God's peace and blessings be upon him. We have another question, which is from Dubai, from Sister Mas'ouda Usman. She states, Dear Dr. Bilal, Assalamu alaikum. Please answer my query. I was married in Karachi and I have 4 children. My husband was a businessman and he had 2 more wives. Without divorcing me, he remarried. He stopped visiting me, but he used to give money for my maintenance. Now he is dead, and the other wives are denying to give me my share of wealth. Kindly let me know Sharia rule about this issue. Thanking you. Yours sincerely, Mas'ouda Usman. Sister Mas'ouda, according to Islamic law, you have an equal right with his other 2 wives to his inheritance. I do believe that in Pakistan, Islamic law is on the books there, so your case should be raised to the courts, and they will find in your favor, if you are not divorced, that his wealth should be divided equally among the wives. Of course, the children have a right also. You have 4 children, and they have a right, just as the children of the other 2 wives have a right, and the wealth is to be divided amongst them all equally. As long as they were all wives and all children, then all of you have equal rights as defined in the Quran with regards to your inheritance. A question from Al-Ain. Sarah Bernardis writes, how many sects are there in Islam? And can you mention some of them? Actually, in Islam, there are no sects. There is just one Islam. What Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, brought was one religion. What Prophet Jesus brought was one religion. What Prophet Moses brought was one and the same religion. People have deviated from those teachings. Wherever they deviated and they formed what may be called sects, these are no longer considered to be a part of the religion. So, where we find amongst Muslims individuals who are regarded as sects of Islam, for example, you have in Pakistan and India the Ahmadis or the Qadianis, who are commonly referred to as sects of Islam, a group which believes that there was a prophet who came after Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him. His name was Ghulam Ahmed, Mirza Ghulam Ahmed. This individual appeared in the late 1800s and died in the early 1900s. He and his followers are not considered to be a part of Islam. See, though he may recognize certain basic principles in Islam, like fasting, prayer, etc., his claim to be a prophet after Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, takes him and his followers outside of Islam. And any such groups that identify some prophets other than God, or which give the attributes of God to human beings, any such groups are not considered to be a part of Islam. If by sects you are referring to what is known as the Hanafi, the Shafi'i, the Maliki, the Hanbali schools of law, these are not considered to be sects. These are schools of Islamic law, interpretation of the law. The basic beliefs, there are no differences amongst them in the basic beliefs of Islam. However, in the application of the Quran and the Sunnah, the scholars who took it upon themselves to teach and to guide the people in different parts of the Muslim world